The autumn leaves scattered across the courtyard of Moonlight Academy as students rushed between classes, their laughter and chatter filling the crisp morning air. Among the crowd walked a small figure with soft brown hair and gentle amber eyes, clutching his books tightly against his chest as if they could shield him from the world. This was Kai, and his story was about to change in ways he could never imagine. Kai had learned long ago to make himself invisible. He kept his head down, walked close to the walls, and tried desperately not to draw attention. Being an Omega in a school full of alphas and betas meant you were already at the bottom of the social ladder, but Kai had the extra misfortune of being alone. No pack, no family, no one to stand up for him when things got difficult, and things got difficult almost every single day. The hallway seemed longer than usual that morning as Kai made his way to his first class. His worn sneakers squeaked against the polished floor, and he could feel the familiar knot forming in his stomach. He knew what was coming. It happened every morning like clockwork, and no matter how much he tried to avoid it, Lucas always found him. Lucas was everything Kai wasn't. Tall, muscular, with the kind of confidence that came from being born into a powerful alpha family. His dark eyes gleamed with cruelty, and his friends followed him around like loyal dogs waiting for their master's command. They spotted Key near his locker, and the smirk that spread across Lucas's face made Key's heart sink. "Well, well, well, well," Lucas called out loudly, making sure everyone in the hallway could hear. "If it isn't the pregnant Omega, tell me, Kai, when are you due? You haven't even found a mate yet, and you're already carrying pups." The hallway erupted in laughter. Kai's cheeks burned with shame as he fumbled with his locker combination. His hands shook so badly he couldn't get it open. The rumor had started 3 weeks ago when Kai had gotten sick during gym class and spent the afternoon in the nurse's office. Somehow, Lucas had twisted that into a cruel joke about Kai being pregnant, and now the whole school treated it like it was true. "Leave me alone, Lucas," Kai whispered, his voice barely audible over the jeering crowd. Lucas stepped closer, towering over Kai's small frame. "What was that? Speak up, Omega. Or are the pregnancy hormones making you too emotional?" Kai squeezed his eyes shut, willing himself not to cry. Crying would only make it worse. It always made it worse. He tried to focus on breathing, on getting through this moment, like he had gotten through all the others before it. Just survive until Lucas got bored. Just survive until the bell rang. Just survive. The bell did ring, and Lucas and his friends dispersed, their laughter echoing down the hallway. Kai finally managed to open his locker, grabbed what he needed, and hurried to class. The whispers followed him everywhere. He could hear the other students talking about him, pointing, giggling behind their hands. The pregnant Omega, the weird loner, the one nobody wanted. Class dragged on endlessly. Kai sat in the back row, trying to focus on the teacher's lecture about werewolf history and pack dynamics. But the words seemed to blur together. His head felt foggy, and there was a strange heaviness in his chest that he couldn't explain. He had been feeling off all week, but he had assumed it was just stress from the constant bullying. By third period, Kai knew something was seriously wrong. The classroom felt too hot, the lights too bright. His skin prickled with an uncomfortable sensitivity, and every scent in the room seemed amplified. He could smell the chalk dust, the perfume of the girl sitting 2 rows ahead, the leather of the teacher's shoes. It was overwhelming. His vision started to swim, and he gripped the edge of his desk, trying to steady himself. The teacher's voice sounded far away now, like he was speaking from the end of a long tunnel. Kai tried to raise his hand, tried to ask if he could go to the nurse's office, but his arm felt too heavy to lift. The last thing he remembered was the floor rushing up to meet him, and then everything went black. When consciousness slowly returned, Kai found himself lying on the soft cot in the nurse's office. The fluorescent lights above had been dimmed, and a cool cloth rested on his forehead. But what caught his attention immediately wasn't the familiar surroundings of the nurse's office. It was the scent that filled the air around him, so intoxicating and overwhelming that it made his head spin all over again. It smelled like pine forests after rain, like warm cinnamon and dark chocolate, like safety and home and everything he had ever wanted but never had. Kai's Omega instincts, usually so carefully suppressed, roared to life inside him. His whole body responded to that scent, recognizing something important, something vital. He opened his eyes fully and nearly gasped. 3 young men stood near the cot, watching him with expressions of concern and something else he couldn't quite identify. They were clearly brothers, all sharing similar facial features, but each one distinct and striking in his own way. The one in the middle had jet black hair that fell across his forehead, sharp features, and intense dark eyes that seemed to look right through Kai. He stood with perfect posture, hands clasped behind his back, radiating authority and control. This had to be an alpha, and a powerful one at that. To his right stood another brother with bright red hair that looked like flames in the afternoon light streaming through the window. He had a more relaxed posture, a playful smile tugging at his lips, but his green eyes held a sharpness that suggested he was more dangerous than he appeared. Everything about him seemed to radiate warmth and energy. The third brother, standing slightly apart on the left, had silver hair that was unusual for someone so young. He was leaner than his brothers, with wire-rimmed glasses perched on his nose and holding a book in one hand. His gray eyes observed Kai with careful intelligence, as if cataloging every detail. "You're awake," the black-haired one said, his voice deep and smooth. "How are you feeling?" Kai tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness forced him back down. I don't know. Who are you?" The red-haired brother stepped forward with that easy smile. "I'm Ryder. That serious one is my brother Drake, and the bookworm over there is Zane. We're new students here. We were walking past when we saw you collapse, so we helped bring you to the nurse." "The nurse said you fainted from stress and not eating enough," Zane added quietly, closing his book. "She went to call the principal. She seemed worried about you." Kai's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Of course they had witnessed his weakness. Of course these three incredibly handsome alphas, because there was no doubt they were all alphas, had to see him at his worst. "I'm fine," he mumbled, which was clearly a lie given that he was lying in the nurse's office. Drake moved closer, and Kai's breath caught in his throat. The scent grew stronger, more intoxicating. "You're not fine," Drake said firmly but not unkindly. "The nurse told us you've been having trouble with other students. Bullying." Kai looked away, shame burning through him. They knew, everyone always knew, he was the school's favorite target, and now these new students would probably join in too. "It's nothing. I can handle it." "Bullying is never nothing," Zane said, his voice carrying a sharp edge despite its quiet tone. "And you shouldn't have to handle it alone." Before Kai could respond, the door opened and Principal Morrison walked in, followed by the nurse. The principal was a stern-looking beta woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She looked at Kai with a mixture of concern and frustration, the same expression she always wore when dealing with him. "Kai, this is the third time this month you've ended up in the nurse's office," she said with a heavy sigh. "We need to address what's happening to you in this school." "I'm okay, Principal Morrison," Kai said automatically. It was easier to say he was okay than to try to explain the daily torture of being Lucas's favorite target. Drake stepped forward, his presence commanding immediate attention. "Principal Morrison, we'd like to speak with you about Kai's situation. My brothers and I would like to offer our protection." The principal's eyebrows rose in surprise. She looked at the three brothers with new interest, and Kai noticed a flicker of recognition cross her face. "You're the Blackwood triplets. Your family just made a very generous donation to our school." "Yes," Drake confirmed, "and we take the safety of all students very seriously. We've observed some concerning behavior during our first day here. We'd like permission to ensure Kai is not harassed anymore." Kai stared at Drake in shock. They had only been at the school for one day, and they were already trying to protect him? It didn't make sense. Nobody protected him. Nobody cared enough to get involved. Why would these three brothers, who didn't even know him, risk making enemies on their first day? Principal Morrison considered for a moment, then nodded. "I think that would be acceptable." "Kai, how do you feel about this?" How did he feel? Confused, suspicious, hopeful, terrified. But looking into Drake's serious eyes and seeing the encouraging smile from Ryder and the quiet support in Zane's expression, Kai found himself nodding. "Okay." "Then it's settled," the principal said. "Kai, you're excused for the rest of the day. Go home and rest. The Blackwood brothers will escort you to make sure you get there safely." The nurse gave Kai some water and crackers, making him promise to eat a proper meal when he got home. Then the triplets walked with him out of the school building. Students stared as they passed, whispers following in their wake. Kai could see Lucas across the courtyard, his face twisted in anger as he watched the scene. The walk to Kai's apartment building was quiet at first. Kai was hyper-aware of the three alphas flanking him, Drake on his left, Ryder on his right, and Zane slightly behind. Their scents wrapped around him like a protective cocoon, making him feel safer than he had in years. "You don't have to do this," Kai finally said as they turned onto his street. "Lucas won't stop just because you told him to. He'll just find ways to get me when you're not around." "Then we'll make sure we're always around," Ryder said cheerfully, as if it was the simplest thing in the world. "But why?" Kai stopped walking and turned to face them. "You don't know me. Why would you care what happens to me?" The three brothers exchanged a look, some silent communication passing between them. Finally, Zane spoke. "Let's just say we recognize when someone needs help, and we have the power to provide it." They stopped in front of Kai's building, a rundown apartment complex in the cheaper part of town. Kai felt embarrassed comparing it to what must be the luxurious homes these three clearly came from, but they didn't seem to judge him for it. "Get some rest," Drake said, his dark eyes holding Kai's amber ones. "We'll pick you up tomorrow morning for school." "You don't have to," Kai started, but Ryder interrupted with a laugh. "We know we don't have to. We want to. What time should we be here? 7:30? Kai found himself agreeing, still bewildered by the whole situation. He watched from his window as the three brothers climbed into a sleek black car and drove away. Only then did he allow himself to sink onto his old couch and try to process everything that had happened. That night, Key's dreams were filled with dark eyes and protective embraces, with scents of pine and cinnamon and chocolate. He dreamed of running through forests with three wolves beside him, of feeling safe and wanted and cherished. When he woke up, his skin felt hot and tingly, and his heart raced in his chest. He didn't understand what was happening to him. He didn't understand why the Blackwood triplets had chosen to help him. And he especially didn't understand why every fiber of his being seemed to be calling out for them, desperate to be near them again. Meanwhile, across town in a sprawling mansion, three brothers sat in a private study. Drake paced back and forth, his usual control barely containing the alpha instincts raging inside him. Ryder sprawled in a leather chair, but his playful demeanor was replaced with intense focus. Zane stood by the window, looking out at the night sky. "He's our mate," Ryder said, breaking the silence. "There's no doubt about it. Did you feel it? The pull?" "Of course I felt it," Drake growled, running a hand through his black hair. "The question is, what do we do about it? He doesn't know what he is to us. He doesn't understand." Zane turned from the window, his gray eyes serious behind his glasses. "We proceed carefully. Kai has been hurt, bullied, abandoned. If we come on too strong, we'll scare him away. We need to build his trust first." "Agreed," Drake said, finally stopping his pacing. "We protect him. We show him he can depend on us. And when the time is right, we tell him the truth. That he's destined to be the mate of all three of us," Ryder finished, his voice soft with wonder. "Our grandmother's blessing. 3 alphas, 1 omega, just like the prophecy." The three brothers looked at each other, a silent pact forming between them. They had found their fated mate. The 1 omega meant to complete their souls. And they would do whatever it took to keep him safe, to earn his trust, and eventually, to make him theirs forever. Outside, the moon shone bright and full, as if the moon goddess herself was watching over them, pleased that her blessed triplets had finally found their destined omega. The real story was only just beginning. The next morning, Kai woke up earlier than usual, his heart pounding with a mixture of nervousness and anticipation he couldn't quite explain. The dream from the night before still clung to him like morning mist. Those images of running free with 3 wolves at his side, refusing to fade even in the bright light of day. He stood in front of his small bathroom mirror, studying his reflection with critical eyes. His amber eyes looked brighter somehow, and there was a slight flush to his cheeks that hadn't been there before. He changed his clothes 3 times before settling on a simple blue sweater and jeans, then immediately felt ridiculous for caring so much about his appearance. It didn't matter what he wore. The Blackwood brothers were just being kind by offering to protect him. It didn't mean anything more than that. They probably felt sorry for him, the pathetic omega who couldn't even defend himself from school bullies. At exactly 7:30, Kai heard a car horn outside. He grabbed his backpack and hurried down the stairs, his stomach doing nervous flips. The same sleek black car from yesterday waited at the curb, and Ryder jumped out with a huge grin on his face when he saw Kai approaching. "Good morning, sunshine," Ryder called out cheerfully, pulling open the back door with a flourish. Your chariot awaits. Kai couldn't help but smile at Ryder's enthusiasm as he climbed into the car. Drake was in the driver's seat, looking impossibly handsome in a dark shirt that made his black hair seem even darker. Zane sat in the passenger seat, already reading a thick book about ancient werewolf customs. Did you sleep well? Drake asked as he pulled away from the curb, his eyes meeting Kai's in the rearview mirror. Kai felt his cheeks heat up, remembering those vivid dreams. Yes, thank you. You really didn't have to pick me up. I could have taken the bus. The bus is unreliable and uncomfortable, Zane said without looking up from his book. Besides, this gives us a chance to get to know you better. As they drove toward Moonlight Academy, Ryder kept up a steady stream of conversation, asking Key about his favorite subjects, what music he liked, and whether he preferred cats or dogs. Kai found himself relaxing despite his initial nervousness. Ryder had a way of making everything seem light and fun, and his laugh was infectious. When they arrived at school, heads turned immediately. The sight of Kai climbing out of the Blackwood brothers' expensive car caused whispers to ripple through the crowd of students gathering in the parking lot. Kai saw Lucas standing near the entrance with his usual group of followers, and the look of pure hatred on Lucas's face made Kai's stomach clench with familiar fear. Drake must have noticed because he moved closer to Kai, his presence solid and reassuring. Ignore him, Drake said quietly. He can't hurt you anymore. The first few classes passed in a strange blur. True to their word, the Blackwood brothers made sure Kai was never alone. Drake shared his second period class, sitting right next to him and occasionally leaning over to help with difficult equations. His scent, that pine and rain smell, made it hard for Kai to concentrate on calculus, but Drake patiently explained each problem until Kai understood. During third period, it was Ryder who appeared, claiming he needed to switch his elective to match Kai's art class. The teacher seemed flustered by the handsome alpha's sudden appearance, but allowed him to stay. Ryder proved to be terrible at painting, getting more paint on himself than on the canvas, but his playful commentary kept Kai laughing throughout the class. Other students stared at them, clearly confused about why the new triplets were spending so much time with the school's favorite target for bullying. Lunch period was when things got interesting. Kai usually spent lunch in the library, hiding away with a book and whatever small meal he had managed to pack. But today, Zane was waiting for him outside his fourth period classroom, holding 2 bag lunches. I noticed you didn't have much for lunch yesterday, Zane said, pushing his glasses up his nose. I brought extra. I hope you like turkey sandwiches. Kai stared at the offered lunch bag, emotion tightening his throat. When was the last time someone had thought about whether he had eaten? When was the last time anyone had cared enough to bring him food? Thank you, he managed to whisper, taking the bag with trembling hands. They found Drake and Ryder already sitting at a table in the cafeteria, a bold choice that put them right in the middle of the social hierarchy. Kai hesitated at the entrance, knowing that sitting with them would make him even more of a target. But Ryder spotted him and waved enthusiastically, leaving him no choice but to join them. As Kai sat down, he became acutely aware of every eye in the cafeteria turning toward their table. The whispers grew louder, more speculative. Why were the powerful Blackwood brothers spending time with the weird Omega? What could they possibly want with him? So, Kai, Ryder said, completely ignoring the stares. Zane tells me you're into reading. What kind of books do you like? And just like that, the 4 of them fell into easy conversation. Drake asked about Kai's classes and offered to help him study. Zane discussed his favorite novels and promised to lend Kai some books from his personal collection. Ryder made jokes that had all of them laughing, even serious Drake cracking a smile. For the first time in his life, Kai felt like he belonged somewhere. These 3 alphas treated him like he mattered, like his opinions were important, like he was worth their time and attention. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. The peace was shattered when Lucas approached their table. His face was red with anger, and his friends flanked him like an army ready for battle. The cafeteria went silent, everyone sensing the confrontation brewing. Well, isn't this sweet? Lucas sneered, his eyes fixed on Kai with pure malice. The pregnant Omega found himself some bodyguards. Tell me, Kai, which one of them is the father, or do you even know? Kai felt the blood drain from his face. He wanted to sink into the floor and disappear. But before he could say anything, Drake stood up slowly, his full height and alpha presence making Lucas take an involuntary step backward. "That's enough," Drake said, his voice deadly quiet but carrying clearly across the silent cafeteria. "You will apologize to Kai, and then you will leave." Lucas tried to maintain his bravado, puffing out his chest. "Why should I? Everyone knows He didn't get to finish the sentence. Ryder had moved with incredible speed, suddenly standing between Lucas and Kai, his green eyes blazing with barely controlled rage. The playful, cheerful Ryder was gone, replaced by something dangerous and predatory. "Choose your next words very carefully," Ryder said, his voice dropping to a growl that made everyone in the cafeteria tense. "Because they might be your last." Lucas looked between the three brothers, finally seeming to realize he was outmatched. But he was too prideful to back down completely. "This isn't over," he muttered, then turned and walked away, his friends scattering behind him. The cafeteria erupted in whispers as the brothers sat back down. Kai was shaking, adrenaline coursing through his system. Zane reached under the table and gently took Kai's hand, squeezing it reassuringly. "Breathe," Zane said softly. "You're safe. We've got you." After school, instead of taking Kai home, the brothers invited him to their house. Kai's first instinct was to refuse, but the hopeful look in Ryder's eyes and Drake's gentle insistence wore down his resistance. Besides, he was curious to see where they lived. The Blackwood mansion was unlike anything Kai had ever seen. It sat on acres of private land, surrounded by forests and gardens. The building itself was massive, with tall windows and elegant architecture that spoke of old money and power. Kai felt completely out of place as they pulled up the long driveway. Inside was even more impressive. High ceilings, expensive furniture, artwork on the walls that Kai suspected were genuine originals. A staff member greeted them at the door, taking their bags and informing Drake that dinner would be ready in 2 hours. "Come on, let me show you around," Ryder said excitedly, grabbing Kai's hand and pulling him through the house. He showed Kai the game room with its massive television and every gaming console imaginable, the indoor pool, the home gym, and finally, the library. The library took Kai's breath away. It was 2 stories tall, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with thousands of volumes. Comfortable reading chairs were scattered throughout, and large windows let in natural light that made the whole space feel magical. "I thought you might like this room," Zane said from behind him, a small smile on his usually serious face. "You're welcome to come here and read whenever you want. It's beautiful," Kai whispered, running his fingers along the spines of nearby books. "I've never seen so many books in one place outside of a public library." Drake appeared in the doorway. "This is your home now too, Kai. Whenever you need a place to go, a place to feel safe, you can come here." Kai turned to look at the three brothers, confusion and something deeper swirling in his chest. "Why are you doing this? Why are you being so nice to me? I don't understand." The three brothers exchanged one of those meaningful looks again, and Kai could sense they were having some kind of silent conversation. Finally, Drake stepped forward, his dark eyes intense. "Can we talk? Really talk?" They moved to a sitting area in the library, Kai perching nervously on the edge of a leather sofa while the brothers arranged themselves around him. His heart was pounding so hard he was sure they could hear it. "Kai," Drake began, leaning forward with his hands clasped between his knees, "what do you know about fated mates?" The question caught Kai off guard. That the moon goddess sometimes creates perfect matches between wolves. That when you meet your fated mate, you know instantly because of the scent and the pull you feel toward them. But those are just fairy tales, right? They don't really happen anymore. "They do happen," Zane said quietly. "More rarely than in ancient times, but they still happen. And sometimes, the moon goddess creates bonds that are even more rare and special." Kai's mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" Ryder moved to sit next to Kai on the sofa, his green eyes serious for once. "Kai, our family has a special blessing from the moon goddess herself. Generations ago, she blessed our bloodline because our great-grandmothers saved her sacred grove from destruction. The blessing means that sometimes, very rarely, the moon goddess will choose a special Omega to be the fated mate of 3 alpha brothers born together. Like us," Drake continued, "the Blackwood triplets. We were born under a blood moon, marked by the goddess, and we've been waiting our whole lives to find our fated Omega." Kai's head was spinning, He looked between the three brothers, seeing the truth in their eyes. "You can't mean, you're saying you're our mate," all three said in unison. "All three of us." Kai stood up abruptly, pacing away from them. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like him. He was nobody, nothing, just a bullied Omega living in a tiny apartment and trying to survive each day. He wasn't special enough to be anyone's fated mate, let alone three powerful alphas. "I know this is overwhelming," Zane said gently, "and we don't expect you to accept it immediately, but surely you felt it too? The pull between us? The way our scents affect you?" Kai couldn't deny it. From the moment he had woken up in the nurse's office and smelled them, something had changed inside him. His Omega instincts, usually so quiet and suppressed, had roared to life. Being near them felt right in a way nothing else ever had, but accepting that he was their mate meant accepting that his life was about to change in ways he couldn't begin to imagine. "What if I say no?" Kai asked quietly, still not facing them. "What if I don't want this?" There was a long pause. Then Drake spoke, his voice rough with emotion. "Then we'll respect that. We'll never force you into anything, Kai. The bond between fated mates is meant to be a blessing, not a curse. We'll still protect you, still be your friends, still care about you. But the choice of whether to accept the mate bond is entirely yours." Kai turned around to find all three brothers watching him with such open vulnerability that it made his chest ache. These powerful alphas, who could have anyone they wanted, were offering him their hearts and leaving the decision completely in his hands. "I need time," Kai said finally. It's a lot. I need time to think." "Take all the time you need," Ryder said, though Kai could see the disappointment in his eyes. "We've waited our whole lives for you. We can wait a little longer." They had dinner together that evening, and the brothers carefully steered the conversation to lighter topics, giving Kai space to process. But Kai could feel the weight of the revelation hanging in the air between them. Every time their hands brushed accidentally, every time their eyes met, he felt that pull they had talked about, like invisible threads trying to draw him closer. When Drake drove him home that night, Kai sat in the back seat staring out the window at the passing streetlights. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. Part of him wanted to run away from this, to protect himself from the inevitable hurt that would come when they realized he wasn't good enough for them. But another part, the part that had been lonely for so long, wanted to embrace this chance at happiness with both hands. "Kai," Drake said as they pulled up to his apartment building. He turned in his seat to look back at Kai, his dark eyes soft. "Whatever you decide, whatever you choose, know that we see you, the real you. Not the bullied Omega, not the person Lucas tried to make you believe you are. We see the kind, intelligent, strong person underneath. That's who we want. That's who we'll wait for." Kai felt tears prick his eyes. No one had ever seen him that way before. "Thank you," he whispered, then hurried inside before the tears could fall. That night, Kai lay in his bed unable to sleep. His small apartment had never felt more empty, more lonely. He thought about the Blackwood mansion with its warmth and light and safety. He thought about Drake's protective presence, Ryder's infectious laughter, Zane's quiet understanding. He thought about having three alphas who would stand between him and the world, who would value him and cherish him. But he also thought about all the ways it could go wrong. What if they realized he wasn't special enough? What if the reality of being with him didn't live up to whatever fairy tale the moon goddess had promised them? What if he opened his heart only to have it shattered? Across town, three brothers couldn't sleep either. They sat in their study, the same room where they had first discussed finding their mate, and tried to be patient. But every fiber of their beings was screaming at them to go to Kai, to claim him, to protect him, to love him. The mate bond, even unaccepted, was already affecting them powerfully. "He'll choose us," Ryder said, though he sounded like he was trying to convince himself. "He has to. The bond is too strong." "The bond means nothing if he doesn't trust us," Zane countered, closing his book with a sigh. "We need to show him that we're worthy of his trust, that we'll never hurt him the way others have." "Then that's what we'll do," Drake said with determination. "Starting tomorrow, we show Kai exactly what it means to be loved by the Blackwood triplets. We court him properly, we earn his trust, and we prove that the moon goddess knew exactly what she was doing when she made him ours." The three brothers nodded in agreement, a new plan forming. They would win Kai's heart, not through the power of the mate bond, but through their actions and their genuine care for him. They would show him every single day that he was valued, cherished, and loved. And when Kai was finally ready to accept them, they would be there with open arms and open hearts, ready to give him the family and the love he had always deserved. The next few weeks passed in a blur of changes that left Kai's head spinning. True to their word, the Blackwood brothers courted him with a dedication that was both overwhelming and wonderful. Every morning started with them picking him up, and Kai found himself looking forward to those rides more than he cared to admit. Drake would ask about his dreams, Zane would recommend books for him to read, and Ryder would make him laugh until his sides hurt. At school, things had shifted dramatically. Lucas and his friends kept their distance after a quiet but firm conversation with the Blackwood brothers that Kai hadn't been present for but had certainly heard about through the school gossip network, without Lucas leading the charge. The other students who had participated in bullying Kai slowly began to back off. Some even offered awkward apologies, though Kai suspected those were prompted more by fear of the triplets than genuine remorse. For the first time in years, Kai walked through the hallways of Moonlight Academy with his head up. He had friends now. Emma, his longtime best friend who had stuck by him through everything, was thrilled to see him happy. She had immediately figured out what was happening between Kai and the brothers, and she enthusiastically encouraged him to accept the mate bond. "Kai, they're perfect for you," Emma said one afternoon as they sat in the library together. Well, Kai sat. Emma was practically vibrating with excitement. "Have you seen the way they look at you? Like you're the most precious thing in the entire world. And that thing Ryder did last week with the flowers? So romantic." Kai's cheeks heated at the memory. Ryder had somehow convinced the groundskeeper to let him plant an entire garden of Kai's favorite flowers, blue forget-me-nots, in a heart shape visible from Kai's favorite library window. It had been embarrassing and sweet, and had made Kai's heart do funny flips in his chest. But the flowers were just one of many gestures. Drake had started teaching Kai self-defense twice a week in the mansion's home gym. At first, Kai had been terrible at it, unable to land a single hit or escape from even the gentlest holds. But Drake was patient, never making Kai feel weak or incapable. He showed him how to use his smaller size to his advantage, how to read an opponent's movements, how to be strong in his own way. "You're getting better," Drake said during one of their sessions, wiping sweat from his forehead with a towel. They had been sparring for an hour, and while Kai still couldn't beat Drake, he had managed to land a few good hits. "I'm proud of you." Those simple words of praise made Kai glow with happiness for the rest of the day. He had never had anyone be proud of him before. Zane's courtship was quieter, but no less meaningful. He had built an entire library just for Kai in one of the mansion's unused rooms, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves that Zane was slowly filling with books he thought Kai would love. They spent hours there together, reading in comfortable silence or discussing the deeper meanings in their favorite stories. Zane had a brilliant mind, and he never made Kai feel stupid for not understanding something. Instead, he would patiently explain until Kai grasped the concept, then praise him for his insight when Kai made connections Zane hadn't considered. But it was the small, everyday moments that really won Kai over. The way Drake always made sure Kai's favorite tea was stocked in the mansion's kitchen. The way Ryder would text him silly memes throughout the day just to make him smile. The way Zane always seemed to know when Kai needed quiet comfort and would simply sit beside him, a steady, calming presence. Kai found himself spending more and more time at the mansion. His tiny apartment felt empty and cold now compared to the warmth and life at the Blackwood home. The brothers never pushed him, but the invitation was always open. Stay for dinner. Stay and watch a movie. Stay the night in one of the guest rooms. Stay, stay, stay. It was during one of these extended visits that Kai finally admitted to himself what he had known for a while now. He was in love with them, all three of them. The realization had hit him during a movie night when he was squished happily between Ryder and Drake on the enormous sectional sofa, with Zane sitting on the floor leaning back against his legs. He felt safe, cherished, and utterly content. This was what home felt like. These three alphas were his home. But accepting his feelings and accepting the mate bond were two different things. The bond was permanent, eternal. Once accepted and sealed with mating marks, there was no going back. Kai would be tied to these three for the rest of his life. And while that thought filled him with warm happiness, it also terrified him. What if he wasn't good enough? What if being tied to him forever was something they eventually regretted? His fears came to a head one Saturday night when the brothers had taken him to a fancy restaurant for dinner. Kai had felt uncomfortable the entire time, aware of how out of place he was in his simple clothes, while the brothers looked like they belonged on magazine covers in their tailored suits. Other diners kept staring, and Kai could practically hear their thoughts. What are those three doing with him? He doesn't belong here. The drive home was quiet, each brother sensing Kai's mood. When they pulled up to the mansion, Kai made a decision. I should go home, he said quietly. To my apartment. I've been imposing on you too much lately. You're not imposing, Drake said immediately, turning to look at him with concern. Kai, what's wrong? And suddenly, all of Kai's fears and insecurities came pouring out. I don't belong in your world. Did you see how everyone stared at us tonight? They were all thinking the same thing. What are three powerful, wealthy, handsome alphas doing with someone like me? I live in a rundown apartment. I buy my clothes from thrift stores. I'm nobody special. And eventually, you're going to realize that. You're going to wake up one day and wonder why the moon goddess stuck you with such a disappointing mate. The words hung in the air, and Kai felt tears streaming down his face. He had tried so hard not to cry, to be strong, but the weight of his own inadequacy was crushing him. Kai, Zane said softly, turning around in his seat to look at him. Do you know what I see when I look at you? Kai shook his head, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. I see someone who has survived years of bullying and hardship, but remained kind. I see someone who works part-time after school, to afford his tiny apartment, because he's independent and proud. I see someone who lights up when talking about books he loves, who helps other students with their homework even though they never helped him, who has the most beautiful soul I've ever encountered. I see someone brave, Drake added, his voice rough with emotion. Someone who faces each day with courage even when the world has been cruel. Someone who makes me want to be a better alpha, a better person. Someone I'm honored to call my mate. I see my future, Ryder said, reaching back to take Kai's hand. I see lazy Sunday mornings and shared laughter. I see someone who makes even ordinary moments feel magical. I see the person I want to build a life with, the person I want to protect and cherish every single day. You're not a disappointment, all three said together, their voices blending into one. You're perfect, you're ours, and if the moon goddess chose you for us, it's because she knew exactly what we needed. Kai's tears fell harder, but this time they were tears of release, of hope, of belonging. I'm scared, he admitted. I'm scared of not being enough. I'm scared of losing you. I'm scared of everything changing. Change can be good, Drake said gently. And you'll never lose us. The mate bond means we're connected forever, Kai. Through good times and bad, through fear and joy. Through everything life throws at us. You don't have to be scared alone anymore. We'll face it together. All of us, Ryder emphasized, squeezing Kai's hand. Together. Kai took a shaky breath, then nodded. Okay, I accept it. I accept the mate bond. I accept you. All of you. The effect was immediate and electric. The moment the words left Kai's mouth, something shifted in the air between them. The invisible threads Kai had felt pulling him toward the brothers suddenly solidified, becoming an almost tangible connection. He could feel their emotions now, their overwhelming joy and relief and love flooding through the bond and into his heart. Drake pulled Kai from the car and into the mansion, his brothers following close behind. They ended up in the brothers' private sitting room, a space Chi had never been invited into before. It was richly decorated but comfortable, clearly a place where the triplets spent a lot of their private time together. The final step of accepting the mate bond is the marking, Zane explained, his gray eyes glowing with barely contained emotion behind his glasses. We each need to mark you, and you need to mark us. It will seal the bond permanently and allow us to fully feel and share each other's emotions. Kai's heart raced. He understood what marking meant, a bite, usually on the neck or shoulder, that would leave a permanent scar in the shape of the alpha's mark. It was intimate, sacred, and irreversible. I'm ready, Kai said, and he meant it. The fear was still there, but it was overshadowed by trust and love and the absolute certainty that this was right. Drake approached first, his alpha instincts demanding he protect and claim his mate. He pulled Kai close, one hand gently cupping the side of Kai's neck. This will hurt for just a moment, he warned, his thumb stroking Kai's racing pulse. But I promise it will be worth it. when Drake's teeth sank into the soft skin where Kai's neck met his shoulder. There was a sharp burst of pain that quickly transformed into something else entirely. Warmth spread from the bite mark through Kai's entire body, and suddenly he could feel Drake's emotions as clearly as his own. The fierce protectiveness, the deep love, the absolute devotion. Kai gasped at the intensity of it. Ryder was next, marking the other side of Kai's neck with the same careful reverence. His mark brought with it a rush of joy and playfulness, but underneath was the same profound love and commitment. The warmth from the first mark doubled, spreading through Kai like sunshine. Finally, Zane stepped forward. His mark was placed on Kai's wrist, a spot that would be visible when Kai chose to show it. The moment Zane's teeth pierced his skin, Kai felt the final piece of the bond click into place. Zane's quiet strength and deep affection joined the emotional symphony created by his brother's marks. Kai stood there, marked 3 times, feeling more complete than he had ever felt in his entire life. But the bonding wasn't finished. He still needed to mark them in return. One by one, following his Omega instincts, Kai marked each of the triplets on their necks. With each bite, he felt the bond grow stronger, felt their connection deepen. When it was done, the 4 of them stood in a circle, holding each other, united in a way that transcended words. The marks on Kai's skin glowed with a soft silver light, the sign of the moon goddess's blessing. The prophecy had been fulfilled. 3 alpha triplets had found their perfect Omega mate, and the bond was sealed for eternity. "I love you," Kai whispered, the words coming easily now. "All of you, we love you too." They responded in unison, and Kai could feel the truth of it through the bond, could feel how deeply and completely they meant it. That night, Kai didn't go back to his apartment. He stayed at the mansion, in a room that the brothers had been preparing for weeks, not a guest room but a space that was truly his. It was filled with soft blankets and books and everything they had learned he loved. But Kai didn't sleep there alone. The 4 of them curled up together in the large bed, wrapped around each other, feeling safe and loved and whole. The weeks that followed were a period of adjustment and discovery. Kai learned to navigate the complexities of being in a relationship with 3 alphas, each with their own distinct personalities and needs. He learned that Drake needed physical affection to feel connected, that Ryder processed emotions through play and laughter, that Zane showed love through acts of service and quiet companionship. At school, the change in Kai was visible to everyone. He walked with confidence now, secure in the knowledge that he was loved and valued. The mating marks on his neck were on display, a clear signal that he was claimed and protected. Lucas took one look at the glowing marks and went pale, finally understanding exactly who he had been messing with. The Blackwood triplets weren't just any alphas. They were blessed by the moon goddess herself, and Kai was their chosen mate. Emma threw Kai a small celebration party when she heard the news, inviting a few other students who had been kind to Kai over the years. It was the first party Kai had ever been to where he felt like he belonged, where people were genuinely happy for him. But not everything was perfect. There were challenges that came with being in such an unusual relationship. Some of the older pack members in the community looked down on their unconventional bond. There were whispers and disapproving looks when they went out together in public. Kai heard the comments about how improper it was, how the old ways were better when Omegas had one mate and knew their place. It was during one of these incidents that Kai showed just how much he had grown. An older alpha at a pack gathering made a snide comment about Kai being greedy for taking 3 mates when others had none. Before any of the triplets could respond, Kai stepped forward, his amber eyes flashing with determination. "I didn't take 3 mates," Kai said clearly, his voice carrying across the gathered pack members. "The moon goddess blessed me with 3 mates. And if you have a problem with that, you can take it up with her. I'm done apologizing for existing. I'm done letting others make me feel small. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be, with exactly who I'm supposed to be with." The room went silent. Then, slowly, one person started clapping. Then another. Soon, most of the pack was applauding Kie's courage in standing up for himself and his mates. Even the older alpha who had made the comment looked chagrined. Drake pulled Kai close, pride radiating through their bond. "That's our Omega," he murmured into Kai's hair. As winter turned to spring, Kai made the decision to officially move into the mansion. His tiny apartment had been a symbol of his independence and survival, but he was ready to let it go. Ready to embrace this new chapter of his life. The brothers helped him pack, making it an adventure rather than a sad goodbye. The room that had been prepared for him slowly became more personalized. Kai added his own touches, his favorite posters and photos, the few precious belongings he had accumulated over the years. But increasingly, he found himself sleeping in each of his mates' rooms, sharing their spaces, their lives, their everything. School became easier too. With the constant support of his mates, Kai's grades improved dramatically. Zane tutored him patiently, Drake helped him stay organized, and Ryder made study sessions fun instead of stressful. Teachers who had barely noticed him before started commenting on his potential, his intelligence, his growth. One particularly memorable day, Kai found out he had been accepted into the advanced literature program he had applied for on a whim. He had never thought he was good enough for it, but Zane had encouraged him to try. When he received the acceptance letter, he ran through the mansion shouting for his mates, and they celebrated with an impromptu dance party in the kitchen that had even the usually stoic household staff smiling. But the real test of their bond came unexpectedly on a rainy Tuesday evening. Kai had stayed late at the library, working on a project, and had texted the brothers that he would take the bus home. It was only a 20-minute ride, and he didn't want them to come out in the storm just for him. He should have waited for them. The attack happened so fast that Kai barely had time to process it. 3 members of a rival mafia family, enemies of the Blackwood organization, grabbed him as he walked from the bus stop to the mansion. They threw a hood over his head and dragged him into a van. Kai's training with Drake kicked in immediately. He fought hard, landing several good hits, but he was outnumbered and overpowered. Through the mate bond, his fear and panic shot directly into his 3 mates. Drake, Ryder, and Zane felt Kai's terror as if it were their own, and the effect was immediate. The 3 brothers moved as one, their alpha instincts roaring to protect their mate. Drake tracked T.I.'s location through the bond, Zane coordinated with their family's security team, and Ryder personally called in every favor they had to mobilize their forces. Meanwhile, Kai was dragged into an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. His captors threw him roughly to the ground, and the hood was yanked from his head. A scarred alpha stood over him, grinning cruelly. "The Blackwood Triplet's precious Omega," the man sneered. "They'll give us anything to get you back. Territory, money, power. You're the key to bringing them to their knees." But Kai wasn't the same frightened Omega who had cowered from Lucas months ago. He had been trained by Drake, encouraged by Ryder, and educated by Zane. And more importantly, he was connected to 3 of the most powerful alphas in the city through an unbreakable bond. "You made a mistake," Kai said, standing up despite his shaking legs. "They're already coming for me. And when they get here, you're going to regret ever touching me." The alpha laughed, but Kai could see the uncertainty in his eyes. Through the bond, Kai could feel his mates getting closer. He could feel Drake's cold fury, Ryder's burning rage, and Zane's calculated precision. All he had to do was buy time. He remembered what Drake had taught him about using his environment. The warehouse was old, full of rusty equipment and unstable structures. Kai started moving, backing toward a stack of old crates. When one of the guards lunged for him, Kai dodged and shoved the crates, sending them toppling onto the guard. The scarred alpha's expression darkened. "Restrain him," he ordered the remaining guards. But before they could move, the warehouse doors exploded inward. Drake stood in the entrance, his eyes glowing with alpha power, flanked by Ryder and Zane. Behind them were dozens of members of the Blackwood organization, all armed and ready. "Get away from our mate," the 3 brothers said in unison, their voices layered with the power of the mate bond and their own considerable alpha strength. What happened next was chaos. The fight was short and brutal. Kai watched in awe as his 3 mates moved with perfect coordination, taking down their enemies with practiced efficiency. Drake fought with controlled precision, each move calculated and devastating. Ryder was a whirlwind of energy and power, his playful nature replaced by something fierce and deadly. Zane hung back, directing their forces and ensuring no one escaped. When it was over, the scarred alpha and his men were restrained, ready to be turned over to the Pack Council for judgment. Drake immediately ran to Kai, checking him over for injuries. "Are you hurt? Did they harm you?" "I'm okay," Kai assured him, though he was shaking from adrenaline. "I fought back. I remembered everything you taught me." Ryder wrapped Kai in a tight hug, his whole body trembling. "We felt your fear through the bond. It was the worst moment of my life. You were so brave, Zane said, joining the embrace. You bought yourself time and protected yourself until we could get here. We're so proud of you. The ride back to the mansion was quiet, all three brothers unwilling to let Kai out of their sight or their touching range. Once home, they went directly to their private sitting room, the place where they had completed the mate bond, and just held each other for a long time. I was scared, Kai finally admitted. But I knew you were coming. I could feel you through the bond. That gave me strength. This is exactly why the moon goddess created mate bonds, Drake said softly. So we're never truly alone, even in our darkest moments. The incident had one positive outcome. The rival family was completely dismantled by the Pack Council for their attack on a bonded Omega. The message was clear. The Blackwood triplets' mate was under the protection of not just their family, but the entire pack and the moon goddess herself. No one would dare threaten Kai again. As spring turned to summer, life settled into a wonderful rhythm. Kai graduated from Moonlight Academy with honors, his name called to cheers from not just his mates, but from Emma and the other friends he had made. The shy, bullied Omega who had once hidden in corners was gone, replaced by a confident young man who knew his worth. The brothers threw him an enormous graduation party at the mansion, inviting everyone from school plus pack members and family friends. Kai wore a beautiful outfit that the brothers had insisted on buying him, and for the first time in his life, he felt comfortable being the center of attention. He belonged here. He was loved here. Principal Morrison approached him during the party, a rare smile on her usually stern face. You've come a long way, Kai. When the Blackwood brothers first asked to protect you, I wasn't sure what to expect. But seeing you now, seeing the person you've become, I'm proud of how far you've come. Thank you, Kai said sincerely. I couldn't have done it without them. No, the principal corrected gently. They helped, but the strength was always in you. They just helped you find it. As the sun set and the party continued, Kai found himself on the mansion's balcony, looking out over the gardens where Ryder had planted those forget-me-nots months ago. They were in full bloom now, a sea of blue flowers, swaying in the summer breeze. 3 sets of arms wrapped around him from behind. Through the bond, he felt their love, their contentment, their absolute certainty that this was exactly where they were all meant to be. Happy? Drake murmured against his hair. So happy, Kai confirmed. Happier than I ever thought possible. Good, Ryder said with a laugh. Because we have a surprise for you. Zane handed Kai a small velvet box. Inside were 4 matching rings, each engraved with their names and the date they had completed the mate bond. We know Omegas and Alphas don't traditionally exchange rings, Zane explained. But we wanted something to symbolize our commitment to each other, to our bond, to our future together. Kai's eyes filled with happy tears as each of his mates slipped a ring onto his finger, then allowed him to do the same for them. The rings gleamed in the fading sunlight, a visible symbol of their eternal connection. To us, Drake said, raising a glass of sparkling cider in a toast. To our Omega, who is stronger and braver than anyone we've ever known. To our mates, Kai added, his voice thick with emotion. Who showed me that I was worthy of love, that I could be strong, that I never had to be alone again. To forever, Ryder and Zane chorused. They touched their glasses together, the sound ringing out clear and bright over the garden. Inside, the party continued, full of laughter and music and joy. But here on the balcony, it was just the 4 of them, bonded for eternity, facing the future together. Kai looked up at the emerging stars, wondering if the moon goddess was watching. If she was, he hoped she knew how grateful he was for her blessing. She had taken a broken, lonely Omega and given him not 1 mate, but 3. She had given him a family, a home, and a love that would last forever. As if in response, the first star of the evening flared bright, twinkling like a wink from the goddess herself. Kai smiled, leaning back into the embrace of his 3 alphas, and knew with absolute certainty that his story had found its perfect ending, or rather, its perfect beginning, because this wasn't the end. It was just the start of forever. Did you enjoy Kai's journey from a bullied Omega to a confident mate of 3 powerful alphas? If you loved this story of love, courage, and finding your true family, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more romantic stories. Drop a comment below telling us your favorite moment. Was it when Kai stood up to the older alpha at the pack gathering, or when he fought back against his kidnappers? Share this story with friends who love heartwarming romance and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next tale. What kind of story would you like to hear next? Let us know in the comments.